You can add a helper to your draggable element if you want. A helper, as the name indicates, is a substitute element which will help us to see where the dragging element is currently at. So the option you need to use is helper. To illustrate this, I have created a web page with 3 div elements and they have IDs sub1, sub2 and sub3. So let us first see how we can add a helper to this first div element. So for that, let me first make it draggable by specifying hash sub1 dot draggable, and as an option I need to specify helper. Helper is the name of the option. The default value of the helper option is original. That is, the original element itself acts as a helper, and if you actually want to add a helper, we need to specify the value of helper option to be clone, C-L-O-N-E. And now let's check whether it is working. Refresh. Let me try to drag this. See, a substitute element that looks exactly like the original element is moving, and when I release the mouse, it is moved back to its original position. So in effect, the original element stays at its original position, whereas the clone is moving as I drag the element. And here, as you could see, we are not able to drop the element somewhere. Suppose I just specify $hash sub2 dot draggable. What will happen now? If we drag the element, the original element is moving, and when I release the mouse, it is staying at that position. And if we want to move it back to its original position, we should specify revert to be true. But here, as you could see, the original element is remaining at its original position and only the clone is moving, that is the helper is moving, and when I release the mouse, the original element is staying there itself. It is not moving to the new position. So even if we set the value of revert to be false, nothing is going to change. That is, when we add a helper element, we cannot move to a new position like this. It will remain in its original position. So that is the point you need to remember when you add the helper element. And to make it some more realistic, what we can do is we can add another option named opacity. That is, you can change the transparency of the moving element, that is the helper element. Let me set the opacity to be 0.5 and see how it works. Let me try to move this. See, a transparent helper is now moving. Means the original one is at its original position itself and the moving element's transparency is changed. So it is just to add some realistic feeling. We can change this to 0.2 and see. Save. Refresh. See, the clone element or the helper element is transparent now, and here you can put it in the new position. Now, similar to revert, you can also add a function as the value of this helper option. So instead of setting the value to be clone, you can add some function here. So let us see it for the third one. So let me copy this, paste it and change this to sub3. And for the helper, let me add a custom function. So helper, let me add the function. Okay. And within this, let me write return. Okay. And let me add a div element within this. So how should I write? I need to add $, and within this, let me add a div element, div. Okay. Let me set some style, border. Okay. Here I need to specify single quotes because we have already specified double quotes here. So ending single quotes, and then border, let it be 2px solid black. Then let me set the background to be black and the text color to be white. Okay. And I need to close this div and let me add some text like custom helper, and let me close the div element. Now what will happen? Instead of moving the clone, it will be a div element. So let's see that. Refresh. This is a helper element with transparency to be 0.2. This is without any helper, and here see a custom helper is moving. As we have set the helper to be a function, and there we added a div element with this style, that is background to be black and font color to be white, and we have also set the border, but it is not seen. Why? Because the background is already black. Let us change this to purple and this to 5px only to see the border. Let me refresh. Let me move this. See, a 5px purple border is added. So here we are moving actually a helper element that is custom made. Instead of the same shape and size, we have created a div element as we want, and we have set the helper to be that element. That is why here a custom helper is moving. So this way you can see where the element is exactly at, keeping the original element at its position by adding the helper option, and you can set the value to be clone if you want the clone of the same element is to be moved, and you can also specify a function where you can create the shape you want and return it so that a custom helper will be moving. So in this lecture we have seen how to use the helper option to add a helper to the dragging element.